Welcome to episode 161 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 who are pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories, their way, and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50, and your host for today's show. Today I'm speaking with Suzy Mighell, a woman who has turned the often painful experience of the empty nest into a season of growth, purpose, and renewed joy. Suzy is the founder of the online platform Empty Nest Blessed and is also the author of Empty Nest Blessed: 60 Days to Finding Joy in the Empty Nest. Her journey began when her youngest child left for college on Suzy's birthday. It was a moment that forced her to confront the silence, her identity, and try to make sense of how the next chapter of her life could unfold. In this conversation, Suzy shares what she has learned from more than a decade of walking alongside women and families who are navigating life after their kids left home. Here are a few key takeaways from this episode. First, Suzy explains why the empty nest is not an ending, but an invitation to rediscover who you are apart from your role as a parent. Second, she talks about how silence is uncomfortable at first, but can be a powerful space for reflection, prayer, and clarity. Third, we discuss why marriages often struggle during the empty nest years and what couples can intentionally do to reconnect and grow stronger together. Fourth, Suzy offers insight into parenting adult children, including when to speak, when to stay quiet, and how to preserve relationships built on trust and humility. Finally, she shares how faith has anchored her identity, helped her release regret, and given her confidence that life after 50 can still be rich with purpose. If you are facing the empty nest now, approaching it soon, or simply wondering what comes next after turning 50, this conversation will give you practical hope. To tell us more about her journey after all her kids started lives of their own, please welcome Suzy Mighell to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Suzy. I really appreciate it. I know that you are the focus, or you've been focusing on a topic that is of great importance to me. That is the empty nest. What prompted you to dive into this?
Well, Greg, I'm so glad to be here. I love what you do, Forward from 50. And I'm so grateful for others that are willing to speak into the space of the empty nest life after 50. And what a vital and important and purpose-filled stage this can be. So I started about 10 years ago when my nest emptied, actually on my birthday in a cruel joke. I took my youngest daughter, so I have two sons and a daughter, mothers and daughters pretty close. And I dropped off my daughter at college. And I had been thinking about and anticipating the empty nest for a very long time. He had served my kids at home as a stay-at-home mom, really focused on them. And extracurricular wise, the things that I'd been doing were things really in support of them, serving on the boards of their school, PTA president, bringing the snacks to soccer practice, and all the things. It was a very active and involved mom, having other moms over to our home for prayer groups, encouragement, things like that. So when they left, it was going to be a big shift for me, and I knew that. And I spent a great deal of time, really when my first one left, I started thinking, okay, this is coming and this is not a joke. It's not a drill, friends. Mm-hmm. And really that last year when Becca was in high school, I devoted myself to a lot of prayer and a lot of thinking and investigation about what I wanted that last part of life to be like. My husband is a CPA. He's very first eye and all that. And he said, we've got about a third of our life left. We got to finish it. He had it down to a formula mathematics. And so I thought, okay, God has a purpose for me in this last third of life. And I want to discover what it is. So at the time, I had a friend that was in the beginning of the blogging era. So that was 10 years ago. I'm 60 now. And 10 years ago, everybody was blogging and they would get a domain, they would get a blog, they would blog about their feelings. And then when they felt a little better, the blog would be abandoned. That was really common. And I decided that I wanted to be a voice for encouragement, inspiration, positivity, and joy in the season, because whatever season you're in, God's given you another day. He's given you another week. He's given you another year, and he has a plan and a purpose for that time. And it's for you to discover what that is. and to go to him and ask him for help. So I did that very thing. And I did have a friend who was blogging successfully and actually making money. I didn't know you could make money. And I thought, what? My heart was really just to share. And so she said, I think you have an idea here. So Empty Nest Blessed was born, emptynestblessed.com. And I started on social media as Empty Nest Blessed. And I think that positive viewpoint of this stage that for many can be filled with sadness, wonder, questioning, depression, life changes, caregiving, regrets, so many struggles that happen in the empty nest. I think it can be a time where you choose joy, you choose to be positive, and it doesn't mean those struggles aren't there, but you have the opportunity to just speak into those. And one thing that I really found early on in the empty nest, Greg, I'm really interested to see if you found this too, was to me, the quiet when everybody was gone was deafening. The same time, for the first time, I felt like I could really hear myself think. And those thoughts that I'd been pushing back because I'd just been busy with their activities and their things, those thoughts all of a sudden were right there. And I found myself being more thoughtful, more prayerful, journaling more, really thinking through things. So, in that sense, it was much more efficient in terms of getting in touch with who I was, what I wanted, what this next stage was going to be like. And then the encouragement of others. I did some investigation. I'd been serving on boards, as I said, with some other people. I had job offers from people to do different things. And I investigated all of those. I thought maybe I just want a little part-time job where I work at a boutique and then I go home and make dinner and work out and I'm good or whatever and have enjoyed time with my husband. Or I have friends that their empty nest goal, they've built a second home for their family. Others that end up with the caregiver role. And so I just didn't really know. Others that have gone back to school and started a whole nother career in medicine or law or something absolutely amazing. So I don't know. I felt really strongly that the Lord was calling me to just be an encourager and a blessing and to lift up those who are really struggling. And just to say, you have this picture in your mind. My whole picture in my mind has been and still is that I'm like your sister, your friend that comes alongside you, puts my arm around you and says, we're going to do this together. And I'm not going to leave you. I'm right here with you. And we're going to do it together. We're going to struggle through. We're going to learn. We're going to grow together. Because growth is not comfortable. It's so much more comfortable to stay right where you are, isn't it? Look at all you've learned.
Do you think this is an issue that affects men and women equally, or is that more importantly applied to women?
I don't know that I could say equally because I'm not sure I could speak into that, but I want to hear what you think. I do think it affects men more than people.
Then they want it, yes.
Yes, and then they want to admit. And I do think from the standpoint of women, what I've seen are women, especially the women that were stay-at-home moms, but definitely the ones who worked. They may have been busy working, running a company, whatever, but their heart was with their children and their time, their extra time was devoted to those kids. So I do think that women struggle when the kids leave with that lack of identity, with that lack of purpose. Right. In a traditional home where the man is working, the wife is a stay-at-home mom, you've got one situation, then you've got another situation where two parents were working the whole time. Then you've got situations where maybe the mom was homeschooling. Right. And that's really hard because literally everything was oriented around those children, educating, building character, all those things. So I see women with a lot of regret. I see women as their kids age who struggle with the choices their children are making and feeling a lot of guilt, a lot of regret, a lot of concern, and pushing that inward, like thinking that's my fault. And whereas I think men, I'm not sure this is accurate, but traditionally, I think would be like, they made a choice. That's their choice. They're going to live with those consequences. Or maybe that's just my husband who told me I had a third of my life left to live.
That's too funny.
He's precious. We've been married for 38 years and we're having a great time in the empty nest.
I know in our situation.
What are your thoughts?
I had three
daughters.
Yeah,
tell me.
I had three daughters, and my youngest is named Rebecca as well. And so for years before they grew up and moved out of the house. We were counting down days. Every newsletter we sent out at Christmas counted down the days until 678, June 7th of 2008. We started years earlier, so we opened up our Christmas letter. It was like 1,572 days until we are free of our parenting responsibility kind of thing.
That's funny.
And then when it hit, I was completely unprepared for it. Even though the kids left one at a time, the silence when the third left was deafening. And it claimed our marriage because we had focused so much of our attention on the children that we did not pay any attention to the marriage. And eventually the silence brought to light the fact that we were two strangers living in the same house. We had gone in different directions, had different interests and things like that at that point. And it was sad. And I noticed a lot of people, in fact, I think you had mentioned it before we started the conversation, that many divorces are among empty nesters.
Yeah, it's the highest demographic for
Right.
divorces. And I don't think people would think that. People would think it's some 20 somethings, but it is. And for many of the reasons that you mentioned, where they didn't realize that they grew apart. And I talk a lot in my book and on my website, emptynestblessed.com, about marriage and the importance of nurturing that marriage. When those kids leave, some people have said it's like a second honeymoon, and they're just like, we started flirting again, and it was so fun. And many people find they're like, why don't you come to do my thing with me? I don't really want to. That's not my thing. Why don't you come do this with me? I don't really want to. It's not my thing. So really, I encourage couples to find something that they love together.
Right.
And Bob and I, very different interests, very different people. We, for just one example, got involved with our university where we met, the school where we met, in the alumni group, in being sports boosters. We got season tickets to the football season and the basketball season and started enjoying that together. And I think at first it was a little bit more of his thing than my thing, but it has been something we've really enjoyed together. But it definitely, you feel like it will be a relief when the kids leave and that you'll just relax into what's always been there. And then you find out what you thought was always there
Right.
maybe wasn't as strong, and it takes work. And I do see that as a misunderstanding of the empty nest, that it can be a time where significant work will need to be done on marriage. Wouldn't it have been wonderful if you had identified that before your Rebecca left and said, okay, I'm a little worried. We might need to get into some counseling or figure out some things right now that we like to do together. And it is challenging. Do you feel like for a dad, it's equally as difficult as for a mom?
I think they're not going to talk about it, but yes, absolutely, because dads have been carting the kids all over the place as well, and they've been involved in all the school functions, and they've had the kids bringing their friends over and the sleepovers and things like that, and it's just been a flurry of activity for a dozen years or more, and then all of a sudden it disappears. I encourage parents who are facing the empty nest to start embracing their marriage around the time their children are 16 and to get their driver's license and they start venturing out on their own with that independence, giving them more time to be at home. That's the ideal time, I think, for the couples to start focusing back on each other and less on the kids. And that will ease that.
I think that's great advice. Yeah. Great advice. One thing I encourage parents to do is in the first month or so when after your nest empties, when that last one goes, in that first month, plan a trip, just the two of you, reconnect.
That's a great
Remember why you fell in love and talk about where we need to work. What do we need to work on? What do we want the next 5, 10, 15 on up years to look like? And you're not supposed to, when you're 50, you're not supposed to think like where my retirement home's going to be or wherever necessarily. But I do think that it can be a time of reconnecting and planning. And you have to, just like anything else, and you alluded to it so beautifully, be intentional.
That's exactly
It's a time of being intentional. And you know what, Greg? You have the opportunity to do that in the empty nest because of the quietness.
Right.
So I think my heart is to say the quietness, deafening, painful, hard, empty, sad. But let's flip that and see what are the positives? What are the joys? What else happens in quiet? And how can we make that a good thing?
I know you've done
So,
a lot of biblical research. Does the Bible have anything
yeah,
to say about the empty nest?
I think the Bible is the source for absolutely everything in my life and living with palms up, a life that is submitted and oriented around my faith has been my stability. It's also, I think, making that empty nest transition, living a life of faith and being really devoted to my Lord and Savior has helped me from being overly needy with my children or with my husband. And it really lets me focus on being fulfilled from my Heavenly Father and that I'm enough. I don't have to do anything. You don't have to have a podcast. I don't have to have a website. I don't have to write a book. I'm enough just the way I am. I truly am loved unconditionally. So when you have that kind of foundation undergirding everything you are, that makes everything easy. My identity is not being a mom. So when the nest emptied, it was hard and it was sad, but was not my sole identity. My identity is as a child of the King and a daughter of the Lord and the creator of the universe. So for me, that's everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything in any phase. But for me, that's key. And yes, there are lots of things. And in my book, I sprinkle scripture throughout because the Bible speaks to everything in our lives. He's given us everything we need in life and godliness. And you just have to know where to look. And so point to a lot of that. There's good stuff in there about how to keep your mouth closed when your kids are adult kids.
Well, that's a good point because I think a lot
Yes.
of parents are actively involved in their kids and they're used
Mm-hmm.
to directing their lives and
Yeah.
especially ramping it up when they're tweens and teens.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
when they step out on their own, it's very hard to turn that away from parenting to being the advice giver.
Yeah.
And only when asked. Many times the
Yes.
kids don't want your
Yeah.
advice anymore. And you
Yeah.
have to really bite your tongue and say, all right, God,
Yeah.
please don't make the lesson harder than it has to be.
Yes. I know. And to watch them, just to watch, and you think, I know where this is going, and it's not going to be pretty.
Been
You
there.
can't say a thing.
That's
Can't
right.
say a thing. Cannot say it. And it is hard to watch.
Exactly.
And, but I think it's true what you say. And that is a lifelong journey. In my book, Empty Nest Blessed 60 Ways to Finding Joy in the Empty Nest, I start with the beginning of the empty nest journey, even preparing for the empty nest, as I said I did, thinking, praying, all of that about what I wanted that phase to look like. And then as Bob and I did that together. But beyond that, finding purpose for yourself in that phase of life. And then beyond that, even into the later years, really until the time the Lord takes you home, you are going to be parenting. I say that parenthetically, adult children. And what does that look like? If you do not change the way you're approaching it from the way you parented when they were in your home, you will, and I do not say this lightly, you will lose them. You will lose them.
I wonder
You
if
can
the
lose the relationship. It's serious.
I wonder if the same
Yeah.
thing applies to the parents who wanted to be friends with their kids when they were younger rather than parents. And then they're still trying to be friends with their kids later in life when
Yeah.
when they really didn't get the lessons they learned earlier. Now they need them. Are the parents going to be able to step in and provide that kind of advice at that point?
Gems of wisdom, my friend. That is, you're 100% on track. And the parents who were very child centered in their parenting, who were not concerned about training and character and working through life lessons with
Mm-hmm.
those kids, they really struggle. And often there's no respect. And
Mm-hmm.
I think about even at my age, my parents are, my mom's is 91 and my dad's 87. And I still, at 60, I long for my parents to tell me, we are so proud of you. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's amazing. That's crazy. You did that. That is awesome. I long for the encouragement
Hmm.
of my parents. And so kids at any age need that encouragement and need that uplift and need that attaboy. And so when your friends, it means one thing when your friends tell you, but when your parents tell you, it means something different. So I do think people that focus too much on the friendship with their kids when they were younger do potentially undermine that adult relationship. It's much more of a coaching posture than it is a parenting posture. Although the people that say, oh, you're a coach, not a this, I would say it's even past that because you see coaches on the sidelines of games and they're yelling at those players, and those players didn't go, please tell me what I did wrong. Please tell me how I could have done this differently. And there's coaches who are just, well, you did
Right.
this. And you definitely don't want to do that. So I'm not sure I love that
Mhm.
analogy. I think what I encourage parents to do is to focus on building and nurturing the relationship. They need the very best of you. And how often do we give the very worst to the people we claim to love the most? They see
Mhm.
all the ugly and they have seen it. But really, to give your kids the best of you, be that listener, be that person that comes into the relationship without neediness of your own, but that you're there to give, you're there to love, you're there to encourage, you're there to listen. And my daughter called me the other day and was telling me a whole story. And at one point, I interrupted her. I was like, "What? You can't let that happen. You need to go." And she said, Mom, I was calling for you to hold the bucket. That's what I need you to do. I did. She goes, I did not call for a lecture. Okay, Greg, I was not giving her a lecture. I said one sentence. But she was like she at that moment she called for me to hold the bucket. And
Mhm.
yet there are times that one of my kids will call and they need to put it all out there. But then I say, multiple thoughts. Do you want to know what they are? Because you can say no, and I'm here for you and I love you and I'll be praying for you, whatever. And very rarely do they say
Mhm.
no,
My
if ever. I don't
mother-in-law
know if I can ever remember.
My
Yeah.
mother-in-law was excellent at that. When she
Hmm.
saw that something that she didn't like, she would say, I'm only going to say this once. She'd bare her
Hmm.
heart, she'd give her advice, and we'd never hear it again. She
Wow.
was not ragging on us to continue to do something that she thought we should be doing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was excellent way to parent
Yeah.
adult children was to say,
Yeah.
here's what I think you're doing wrong. Here's my
Yeah.
advice on what you can do to correct it or to get back on track, but then
Yeah.
let you make your own decisions. Gosh, that's got to be hard. Are there some
It's
traits?
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there
Yeah.
some traits that parents can encourage in their adult children?
I think anything you see that's positive, even if their children have gone off the rails and they're disappointed in the life choices, the choice of spouse, career choices, other decisions, I encourage parents to look for anything they can say that's positive. I like your mustache. I Your hair looks great like that. Oh, I really like where you live. Oh, you have really neat friends. I think anything you can find that's positive, and it could be really hard to look for. So it may take a quiet moment of you sitting down with a blank piece of paper and just going and trying to come up with those things. Anything that you can say, because as I said, kids every age long for that encouragement and approval from their parents. And trust me, your kids making poor life choices and you've been honest about what you believe as they've grown, they know exactly what you think of their choices. And it does not need to be said necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
You can be quiet. You can say, I do a lot of, wow, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that. I want to know what you were thinking. Tell me how that works. So I do a lot of those really just non-combative questions that are really neutral. And then when they do explain or they get in a situation of trying to explain, then again with the responses, okay. And often then I will be invited to share. If I'm not, I'll say, do you want to hear did you call for me to tell you what I think, or because either way is great. I love to hear from you. I love to see your sweet face and it makes my day to talk to you. let me know how this conversation can be most helpful to you.
That's
Bringing your best self is really about, Greg, think about the very best friends you have. What are the characteristics that make those friendships good? They're probably good listeners. They probably ask about you. Then when you ask about them, they share openly and honestly. Um,
they're not
you have things in
judgmental.
common. Yeah, they're not judgmental. You have things in common that you enjoy doing together and you lean into those. So things parents can do that are just practical. And again, this is throughout my book. Things like send a funny meme,
Mm-hmm.
send a funny bumper sticker picture to your kids who oh, this reminds me of them. And just say, it's reminded me of you. I saw this and I thought of you. I'll send my daughter a cute shirt that I know she'd like a picture of. Isn't this cute?
My mother would
It's like that.
my mother would always send me newspaper articles
Yeah.
that she found, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, for crying out loud, it's just crazy. Some of the things that she thinks I'd be interested in, but it's just she
Yeah.
didn't maintain
But
that
it was lovely to
connection.
be thought
That's
of.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's right.
Exactly. And when you think about offering that to your kids, being the best friend and person, and then when they're with you or when you have them home or when you're with them, as I know you were at the holidays, to be a great guest, bring flowers, contribute, help, don't make a mess, bring your best self. And when they're home, make home a joyful, positive, encouraging, fun place where we laugh, we do fun stuff, we have great conversations, we play games, whatever that brings joy and laughter. You want to be that person and that place
That's
for
right.
your adult kids, and it will keep them coming back.
What if you're in a situation where your kids have failed to launch, or you are desperate for grandchildren and they are not really wanting to have kids? That
Yeah.
can be hard to be saying, when are you going to have kids all the time? That can kind
Don't
of,
say that. Stop saying that.
right.
That's number one is don't say that. Do not ever, ever ask grandkids. If your kids are trying and they're having trouble and they
Right.
come to you and tell you, then you can say, I'm going to be praying about this.
Yes.
Or do you want me to ask about this? Or how can I? The number one golden question that you can always ask that will always be positive is, how can I help in this situation? How can I help? And maybe it's just, I don't know, or just pray for me or think about me, or do you have any contacts or whatever it is? How can I help in this situation? So I would never ask when they're going to have grandchildren, not in a million years. I would
Mm-hmm.
never ask, when are you changing jobs? When are you leaving that awful spouse of yours? When are you going to get that child under control? Do not ask those things. That is the fast track to broken relationship, and you
Exactly.
don't want that.
They'll.
So you have to preserve. Sometimes I just think about relationship over right,
Mm-hmm.
relationship over right. When I'm really struggling and I'm just breathing, so I don't say anything like deep breathing, I'll just think relationship over right, relationship over right. And sometimes we can see them heading headlong into a situation, and we so desperately want to speak into it to protect them and save them from it. And it's not necessarily the kindest thing we can do. They have to go through it to learn.
Mm-hmm. One of the
And
benefits.
growing is not comfortable most of the time.
One of the benefits I've
So
learned to the empty list is that it's fun to be able to ask my adult children for advice, because they see
I
things from a
agree.
different perspective and from a younger perspective. And so that's really
Yes.
neat.
Yes. Or sometimes I'll just say, can you explain this to me? I do not understand it. And yet those parents, okay, I think there's a fine line. Let's talk about this. I love it. So those parents who say, I don't understand any tech stuff, I just call my son. Don't do that. Go learn yourself. Get on YouTube, take a class, go to the Apple store, take a free class, get on YouTube, take a free class, go to the community college, take a class. And your kids will be so proud of you. It doesn't mean you can't ask, but that you've tried and you're not just lazy asking them for everything. Just instead, think about what would happen if you called them and said, I tried to figure this out. I did this and this, and I just can't figure it out. Do you have any tips for me? Do you have any thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
And so something like that. But yeah, there are areas where one of my sons is an AI specialist and he knows so much. So We've had some great conversations over the holidays, the past couple of weeks, about AI and what his thoughts are and how's it going to be used in the future and what does he see. And it was fascinating. And you'll just fall in love with them as little adults,
Right.
and you really will become friends.
Exactly. Is your
Mhm.
book primarily designed for mothers, or will fathers appreciate it too?
I think it's both. I'm a woman. I speak into women. My website, emptynestblessed.com, focuses on women in terms of we cover beauty, fashion, style, travel, marriage, parenting for sure, decor, home things, cooking. We cover all the things. Women are so multifaceted, as are men. Women, multitaskers, multifaceted people, and can think of more than one thing at a time. And so I really speak into that for women. And when I wrote my book, I think that's the audience that I was considering. But at the same time, as you pointed out so wisely, these principles are universal. And in my book, I go chronologically through the empty nest. So I start out with, let's think through this before it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't do that, and if you maybe bought the book when you were struggling and your kids had been gone a couple months and maybe your marriage was faltering and you couldn't get your moorings and find your footing, it's still a good book because I spend a lot of time talking about the grief associated with the empty nest, the adjustment to the empty nest, everything from learning to cook for two rather than five to, or one, to figuring out what is your purpose going to be in the empty nest? How are you going to use this, as my husband would say, last third of your life? Use it. And who are you going to be? How are you going to make a difference in the lives of others? How are you going to become a person that your kids go, I'm proud of my parents, my dad. Your kids have to be so proud of you and what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, my parents, they're killing it in the empty nest. And I want my kids to be proud of me, just like I want my parents to be proud of me. And so we talk about finding purpose in the empty nest and what is it that you want to do? And how do you count the cost? And what's that going to be like? Is it just people like you and I who are entering into more of a techie field and have to learn all that? And you feel dumb sometimes along the way.
It's going beyond my head, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But then, you see there are kind people who get really excited that you're trying to learn it at your age.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I've found them to be so kind and so helpful and just so sweet and say things like, I wish my mom would do this, or I
Mhm.
wish my dad would do that.
Right.
And being really impressed. So that's encouraging. So finding purpose in the empty nest and strengthening your marriage in the empty nest. Then we spend probably the bulk, not probably, the bulk of the book talking about parenting adult kids, because
Mm-hmm.
that starts as soon as they leave the nest and shifting your mindset and the way you're going to do things all the way up through the time when you become a grandparent. When you're a grandparent, do you rush in and kiss the grandkids first? Or do you go, you know what? I'm going to hug and kiss my babies first
Oh,
and say, how are you doing?
well, good luck
And
on that.
the
Charge
grandkids know
you
you love them.
at the door.
They charge you.
Yes.
They charge, but they know you love them, and your kids need you more.
Right. Oh, that. Mhm.
Questionable. Do they need you more? And let that last word when you leave be to the kids. You're doing a great job. These
Oh,
kids are precious, and I've had the best time. You were a great host. You're doing amazing. You're in a struggly time right now, and it's hard. And I see you, and I'm praying for you. You're doing amazing. And
well,
so I always let that last word and that last hug or kiss be for my kids and their spouses, who I consider my kids as well.
mhm.
You have
One of
to.
the things I really liked about your book was your conversation starters that you had in there,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it is so nice. It's important to maintain that conversation, and it really
Yeah.
does have to go beyond having a phone call to talk about the weather, what the kids' activities are, and things like that, to really get to know them as adults. So,
Yeah.
why did you put that in the book?
I tried to be very practical. And so obviously we're talking philosophically too and spiritually and all of that about life as an empty nester. But there were four different sections I put in the book of 50s. At the beginning, we talk a lot about your identity, which you and I have touched on today, your identity and who you are. What are your gifts? What are your skill sets? What are your abilities? But then we talk about who does God say you are? God says you're loved. without doing anything. God says you're amazing. God said he rejoices over you. 50 things that God says in the Bible with the scripture reference that God says about you. Then, as we move on through the book, 50 great date night ideas for empty nesters, because you have to intentionally reconnect with your spouse and figure out how your relationship is going to look different in the empty nest. And so 50 great date night ideas. Then I go on to 50 conversation starters with your adult kids. Things like, tell me about your day. Walk me through your whole day. Let me know what you do when you get up and tell me about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great thing to do. One time we did that, Greg, when all our kids were home. We were actually out at a restaurant and we went around the table. Each of the kids got to tell about their day. And do you know the biggest thing that we closed down the restaurant? The biggest thing that surprised me was the respect and admiration they gained for each other. Hearing about, I mean, my kids are all different. One's an attorney, one's a business analyst and works in AI, one's a musical theater actress and lives in New York City. So we get this wide range, and they knew what they thought about each other. And I knew what I thought about how they spent their day. But then when you hear the reality of it, you go, what? And it was an amazing question. I think that's number 3 on the list. I should have put it at number 1 because it's a great question. And then finally, the last set of 50 is 50 things you can encourage in your adult kids, because sometimes it can be hard to find those things. Things like saying, you know what, you're a good friend. I've noticed the way you treat your friends. I think you're a good friend to them. You're a hard worker. You're indomitable. When something comes up and it's a challenge, you just find a way around it and move forward. That is amazing. And so 50 things you can encourage. So those are really practical sections in the book that I think are a blessing. I hope that they're a blessing to people.
One of the things that you just said really struck me because I had never thought of it before, and how important it is to maintain those sibling relationships as the kids go off in different directions and start their own families and things like that. And you had tried to get your kids to talk to each other in ways that they could share their lives, because I love it when I see my daughters getting together, and it amazes me that they are still as close as they are. Even though one lives in Texas, one in Illinois, and one in Wisconsin, they still manage to talk all the time and try and get together physically.
I love it. And I see, as my parents are aging, that gives them great pleasure and great joy when I'm interacting with my siblings, because you look beyond yourself and think these kids are going to be here for each other no matter what happens. And you love it. It's interesting, though. I'd love to know what you think about this, because when Bob and I are together, we actually enjoy having our kids or their family groups one at a time to focus on them, because I find when we're all together, there's a lot of interaction with them, and I just are like watching a tennis match.
Exactly.
But when I have them one-on-one, I can be like, yep, this is my introvert. I need to dial down my extrovert, fun personality and slow down my breathing, my talking, my energy level, and really just match the pace. So I can be really intentional when I've got one or the other here, and I can think about, this is where that person's living. How can I enter into that space in a way that's a blessing to them? Do you feel that way?
I do as well. I was fortunate in that my daughter surprised me for my 65th birthday with a family cruise. And so we went on an 8-day cruise in September to the Caribbean with all the grandkids and all my kids. And it was just a wonderful time. So that was the first time everybody was together. And you were right. It was like trying to inject into their conversation, and it was fun. But when I go visit the girls, I always do that one-on-one. And I spend that time with them.
You need a balance. And it's funny, I'm on social media a lot. People can follow me at Empty Nest Blessed on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Pinterest. And I'm not on the TikTok. Not going there right now. Maybe later, but not right now. Anyway, I was seeing a lot of the women that I follow myself that are in our age bracket talk about, I really have to have all the kids together at one time. And I thought that's so interesting, because I think everybody sees it differently. But yeah, I'm very much like you. I enjoy it when they're together, and I really want to build their relationship. They have a group chat that does not include us, and I think that's great. My siblings and I have a group chat that does not include my parents. And my mom just thinks we trash her in it. And I'm like, well,
No, that's what would happen.
so you're tempted to think like that they're talking about you, but don't be so self-centered. They're not. They're
What are
just
we
talking
going to
about
do
other
with
things.
Dad?
And
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. That's it. There might be a little bit of that, but a lot of it is them. The actress will call her attorney brother and be like, so I got this contract, not sure what this says. What are your thoughts? And then the techie brother, they'll ask different things. And then how's the use of AI affecting law now?
Mhm.
And
Well,
they
that's
have
neat.
great conversations that are beyond me. And
Mhm.
I think that is mostly what their group chat's about, I
Sure.
hope.
If you could roll the clock back, is there anything you'd do differently in your life?
I think we would all, yes, absolutely. I think if you say no, you're not telling the truth. I wish I had not been so anxious as a mother. I felt this weight of raising these children to be like these kind, loving
Perfect.
people. I don't
Well
know, not perfect,
behaved.
but yeah, behave people with high character, all
Mhm.
these things. And so I think I was a little too focused on being performative. I think they would see it as being performative rather than just thinking more about the example I was setting for them. There were times that I lost my temper. I wish I hadn't. There were times I disciplined more harshly than way more harshly than I wish I had. And it's hard. You can
Mhm.
live in that space of regret and you can camp in that place of regret. And
Absolutely.
my faith has really helped me. The Lord lets our sins go and says he removes them as far as the east is from the west. And I stand on that and believe that. And there have definitely been times, many times, that I've apologized to my kids. I've asked them, not just, I'm really sorry I was that way. I asked them, please, will you forgive me? I'm getting emotional talking about it. I did this and I really regret that. And I wish I'd done this instead. Please, will you forgive me? At the time, I was doing what I thought was right. Or I might say at the time I was active impulsively, or I was too concerned what others thought, or whatever it is, just to be honest and have that vulnerability. And when you go to your kids in humility and truly apologize for your part in whatever took place, whether it's, I don't know, whether it's anything about how you
Right.
disciplined them or how you treated your spouse in front of them or decisions you made that involved them without listening to them. I think if you can go in humility, it's very difficult when someone comes to you in true humility for you to reject them.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean it won't happen, but it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do before the Lord, and it's the right thing to do for them. And they will usually really honor it because anybody that's done that knows it's the hardest thing.
Right.
And
But it's a great way to get
it's,
relationship
it
and
is, it is.
especially if there's
And
hurt involved. If the
yeah, oh,
something you had done when the children were younger really hurt them and they carried that forward, and it was like an offhanded comment or an action that you had done that you really didn't think about, but it just cut them to the core, and they've been harboring it for years. And if they confess that and you see that and you apologize and ask for their forgiveness, it will restore that relationship. Without it,
amen.
it could end it.
You're absolutely right. That is wise words, and it absolutely will.
Mhm.
And you have to humble yourself and ask forgiveness when it's appropriate. And I say to the mamas where there is estrangement, animosity, broken relationships, take responsibility for your fault, even if it was just a lack of sensitivity, even if you were like, they were so oversensitive. I don't know why they were. Don't just put it all on you. Take responsibility for your part and go in humility to with a desire to restore that relationship and to make a change. And that's where you go beyond asking forgiveness. Just please tell me, for example, using your example, if I ever say anything like that to you again, please, I'm giving you permission. I'm begging you, please tell me so
Right.
I can make that right because that is not my intention. And you are my heart, and I would never intentionally do that to you and cause you harm.
It,
So give me permission. And even the parents who are struggling with altering the way they parent. And I gave my kids permission to say, if I'm overstepping, if I start giving you advice, I'm falling back into 18 years of training And you have the opportunity and the freedom to call me on that.
There you go.
And brings up another really good point, Greg, because one thing I do see, and this is talked about a lot, but the way we watch our kids grow from age 0 on up through age 18 and then go beyond that, we're very aware at their change. However, they see us in one role. We see them as dependent infants, onto toddlers, onto school age children, onto teenagers, getting involved and becoming their own people, differentiating. They see us as mom, dad. And I've had to speak to every one of my kids about, I'm trying to see you as an adult now. And I'm so proud of you. But I'm going to ask you to see me as more than mom.
Right.
And see me as a woman with talents and abilities that I had before you were born. And I'm trying to grow. And I want you to be proud of me and what I'm doing right now. But you need to see me as more than mom. And when I say something to you, you don't automatically need to think I'm being mommy. I'm being mom to you. But maybe I'm just a person that has good advice saying something. So we're both going to try. And so I've challenged them to really work on that, to try to see me differently as well. Have you done that?
It breaks my heart to watch parents having estranged relationships with their kids, especially when grandchildren are involved. And there's so many people that I know who have had a big blow up with their adult children, and the adult children have severed the relationship, and they don't get to benefit from the relationship with their parents, and the parents don't ever get to benefit from the grandparents. And I think that whole idea of approaching it with humility and admitting your mistake, even if you were in the right, or your part in that, is just much better than not having a relationship at all. It just truly breaks my heart to see that.
And then I agree with you. And I would say even a step further, that when you're restoring the relationship, focus on, I want to restore the relationship between me and you. And this isn't about the grandkids. I would love to see the grandkids. I would love to have a relationship with the grandkids. What's breaking my heart is the relationship with you. You're my child.
What can I do?
And yeah.
What do I need to say? If they say, you should know what you did, it's just, no, I need you to explain. I need to apologize specifically for what this is. I want to restore this, because life is too short.
And I want to know so I'd never do it again.
Exactly. That's right. That's very good. Do you have any advice for people over 50 who may be struggling with what to do to give their lives meaning and purpose at this stage in their life?
One thing that is fun exercise, and actually my book opens with a chapter talking about this, is I think it's very important to identify who you are apart from your role as a parent. So I tell people, first thing you want to do is you want to make a list of what you think your attributes are. What are you good at? Are you organized? Are you funny? Are you kind? Are you energetic? Are you what are your gifts? What are your abilities? And then I say text 10 people, 10 people that know you well. And it can be your parents, it can be your children, for sure, should be your spouse, it can be a close friend. Don't edit that too carefully, but go to those 10 or so people and tell them, start out by saying, I'm doing something weird. Do not ask me what I'm doing. I'm doing something strange, but I need your help with it. Would you just not think very hard, but describe me in 3 words? Just write them back right now, really fast. Just give me those 3 words. And I thought I was going to get words like bossy and overbearing and too strong. And instead, the words I got were encouraging, persuasive, energetic, a leader.
That's neat.
And to reframe it that way opened my eyes. So I think and then to go from there to, who does God say you are? God says he created you and he made you all those things. So it's time to step into that. Because so often, and I see this on social media, so often as we're scrolling through, we do this little thing in our minds where it's like either one up or one down. So you see a picture and you think, oh, that person doesn't look fit. I'm fitter than that. So I'm one up. And then you keep scrolling, you go, well, it's a cuter outfit than I have on. So, I'm one down on that. Or, wow, that person's really accomplished a lot. They've written their 15th book. I've only written 1 or 0. So I'm one down. And so we do that automatically as we're comparing ourselves to others, just to see, who do these people that know me say that I am? Who do I feel like God has made me to be? And then who does God say that I am? That is the starting point. If you can start from there and beyond that, then just think, what lights my fire? What makes me excited? Is it plants? Are you into plants? Is it into shopping? I don't know. Maybe you could be a stylist or something. Is it cooking? What is it? What lights your fire? Is it helping others? I've had friends who've gotten their degrees in counseling as they've been older, biblical studies, doctorates in scripture and Greek, and all kinds of amazing things that they just did because they followed passions. So look and write down what your passions are. And then start researching. We are in a great time of life where the world is at our fingertips on Google, on AI. We can figure out and learn about jobs, hobbies, volunteer opportunities, all those things just at the touch of a button. And then take it one beyond that. Go for what I call informational interviews. Call people. Everybody likes to talk about themselves, Greg. And what if someone said, Greg, I admire you. You're 65. You started this podcast. How did you do it? You would be like, this is the best day I've ever had. Let me tell you all about it. And we all love to do that and talk about and to share our story. I think president of a company loves to do that and talk about how he got where he is. So I think doing informational interviews in areas where you think you might be interested. So what's it really like to be an oncologist? What's it really like to be this? I think that can help you narrow down what you want to do as well. And then keep praying. The Lord will guide you and all those things intersect. And that will show you your life's path and your purpose.
Yep. Absolutely. There's more for you to do. It's not, you're not called to retire. And
that's it. And I love, retirement. I love your example that it took a mentor and it took someone to speak into you and pull you out. And that's what I want to be for women over 50 and men over 50 too, if I could be helpful. But that is really my heart, is to just come alongside and give them a little push and to say, I did it. You can do it. We're going to do it together. I'm right here, and encourage them to move forward. Growth is uncomfortable often. It's challenging. No one likes to feel dumb, and you will at times. You'll feel old. You'll feel dumb. You'll feel like you don't have a lot to offer. You may feel even overlooked, but the Lord's not finished with you yet. And you have a plan. He has a plan, and you have a purpose.
That's excellent advice. How can people connect with you? You had mentioned it earlier on your website and your social media accounts.
Yes, thank you for asking. So you can find me. I'm embarrassingly easy to find. So emptynestblessed.com is my website. I think of that like my home. So when you come there, I'm inviting you to my house. And then if we meet for coffee, that's social media to me. Let's go and meet and have coffee. So that is at Empty Nest Blessed on Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, and especially Instagram.
Instagram's your favorite. Okay.
I think it's the primary where I connect with the most people.
Okay.
Also, my book is available. It's called, shocker, Empty Nest Blessed. Been doing this for 10 years, so there was a little bit of SEO recognition there. So we just decided to go with it. So it's called Empty Nest Blessed, 60 Days to Finding Joy in Empty Nest. It's available on Amazon in hardback, audiobook with me reading it and really just talking to you, and an ebook. So you can read it on your Kindle. Also available for a little bit less than on Amazon, right from my website, from my shop.
Wonderful. Thank you again for sharing your story with me today. I found it encouraging. I know a lot of us, all of us who've had children, are going through the empty nest one way or the other someday. And so it's great to have that advice and be prepared for it before it happens. So,
amen. Thank you, Greg. And you're a blessing to so many. I'm grateful.
I really appreciated Suzy Mighell's honesty about how hard the empty nest can be, especially when identity, marriage, relationships, and long-held routines suddenly shift. What stood out most to me was her reminder that growth is rarely comfortable, but it is often where purpose is found. Suzy doesn't pretend the empty nest is easy. Instead, she reframes it as a season where you can choose joy, deepen relationships, and become more intentional about how you live and love. Whether she was talking about nurturing a marriage, establishing trust with adult children, or letting go of regret, her message was grounded in grace and humility. If you'd like to learn more about Suzy and her work, you can visit her website at emptynestblessed.com. That's where you can find information about her book titled Empty Nest Blessed: 60 Days of Finding Joy in the Empty Nest, which is available in print, ebook, and audiobook formats. You can also connect with Suzy on social media. She is most active on Instagram, but you can also find her on Facebook, YouTube, and Pinterest under the name Empty Nest Blessed. If today's conversation encouraged you, please consider sharing it with someone who might be approaching the empty nest or quietly struggling through it. There is still so much life, meaning, and purpose waiting on the other side of turning 50. That's all for this week's show. If you'd like to enjoy a more meaningful life, I'll invite you to join me as I develop a new program for Forward from 50. For a limited time, I'm offering podcast listeners a free opportunity to complete an assessment to discover what they really like to do as well as what they'd like to avoid. Then the two of us could have an online chat to brainstorm things you could do that would give you more joy, purpose, and meaning. If you're interested in learning more about this free service I'm developing, please email me at greg@forwardfrom50.com. There are no strings and no obligations. I'm simply looking for volunteers to help evaluate the assessment I've been developing. May you enjoy a rich and rewarding week. Thank you for listening.